Last month, the unemployment rate ticked down to 4.2%, the lowest reading in a while. If you only read the headline, that's the entire story. The labor market is fine, and you can go back to your day. It's the number that leads the broadcast and moves markets before the opening bell, the one a president points at. On paper, unambiguously good news. Here is what actually happened in that exact same month, buried inside that exact same report. Payrolls barely moved, a soft 57,000 jobs in an economy that needs roughly twice that just to keep pace with the population. The 2 months before got quietly revised away, 74,000 jobs the government had already told us existed, gone. And 720,000 people didn't lose their jobs exactly. They left the labor force entirely, stopped being counted as workers at all. Participation fell to 61.5%, the lowest since 2021. And here's the piece that ties it together. Because those 700,000 walked out of the count, the official unemployment number didn't rise. It went down. Now, if you've spent this year sending applications into the void, 200 of them, each one a form you filled out and a resume you tuned and a cover letter nobody read, a rate falling to a 4-year low does not describe the world you're living in. It describes a different planet. The real explanation is more interesting than a lie and more useful than outrage. The unemployment rate is not built to measure how hard it is to get a job. It never was. It's built to be stable, official, and, as it happens, reliably low. And once you see the 4 specific ways it's engineered to stay there, you can't unsee them. Ask a normal person on the street what unemployed means, and they'll tell you the obvious thing. It means you don't have a job. Reasonable, intuitive, and, according to the agency that publishes the number, wrong. To the Bureau of Labor Statistics, being unemployed is a 2-part test, and you have to pass both parts. 1, you don't have a job. Fine, that's the part everyone knows. 2, you have to have actively looked for work in the last 4 weeks, applied somewhere, contacted an employer, something the survey will accept as searching. Fail either half and you are not counted as unemployed. You become something else entirely. The headline rate, the one on the news, officially called U3, is a fraction. Unemployed people on top, the total labor force on the bottom. And a fraction has 2 different ways to get smaller. You can shrink the top, move people into jobs, which everyone assumes is what's happening. Or you can grow the bottom. Or, better still, shrink both at once. Hold on to that second lever, because it is about to do most of the work here. So where does the number even come from? 2 monthly surveys. One calls about 60,000 households and asks whoever picks up whether they're working, looking, or neither. The other, the one that produces the big jobs number, asks a sample of employers how many people were on their payroll. That employer survey doesn't count every business in America. It can't. It samples the ones that agreed to participate, and the head counts those businesses send back are self-reported. No pay stubs, no tax records, no receipts required. You tell the government a number, and it gets written down. The sample is incomplete, and the answers are unverified. Not a flaw somebody is hiding, just how this particular sausage gets made. And to be clear, none of this is a scandal. No smoke-filled room, no villain. This is an estimate, a genuinely hard one, built on definitions and collected by survey across a country of 160 million workers. But that is exactly the point. Every one of those definitions is a decision. Somebody at some point drew a line and said this counts and that doesn't. So let's change a few of those definitions and watch what happens to the number. The same way the number already quietly changes itself every single month. It edits. Edit number 1. The people who simply stop looking.
Picture yourself after a year of that inbox. This month, quietly, you stop. You don't refresh the job board. You don't send the next one, because what's the point? In that moment, in the eyes of the statistic, you are no longer unemployed. You haven't found work. Nothing improved. But because you didn't search in the last 4 weeks, you've left the labor force, off the top of the fraction, and deleted from the bottom too. Now sit with what that does to the arithmetic. A discouraged worker giving up doesn't push the rate up the way your gut insists it should. Because they vanish from the numerator and the denominator at the same time, giving up actually pushes the rate down. The worse the job market gets, the more people it grinds into quitting, the better the headline can look. Not a bug in the reporting, the math working exactly as designed. And the BLS knows these people exist. It has names for them, marginally attached, and the subset it calls discouraged workers, people who want a job and are available for one, but have stopped searching because they don't believe there's one out there to find. The Bureau counts them, publishes them, defines them in careful footnoted language. It just doesn't put them in the famous number. Which brings us to edit number 2, the honest number you are never actually shown. Because the BLS doesn't publish one unemployment rate, it publishes 6, labeled U1 through U6. U3 is the narrow one you hear on the news. U6 is the broad one. It folds in those discouraged workers, plus the people stuck in part-time jobs who want full-time work. And U6 runs consistently, dramatically higher. Right now, U3 is 4.2%. U6 is 7.9, nearly double. Same economy, same month, same agency. One gets the microphone, the other gets a table nobody reads. Edit number 3 is the strange one. The jobs nobody actually counted because a model simply assumed they were there. The logic starts out reasonable enough. New businesses are being born all the time, and by definition, they're too small and too new to be in the survey yet. Nobody is calling a company that opened 2 weeks ago. So, rather than miss those jobs and undercount, the BLS estimates them using something called the birth-death model, an adjustment that adds in the jobs it assumes new firms created and subtracts the ones it assumes dying firms lost. In a steady economy, that's a defensible guess. The problem is turning points. When the economy rolls over, the model doesn't know yet. It keeps confidently adding imputed jobs on the assumption that firms are still being born at the old pace. This past spring, it added 158,000 jobs in a single month that way. Not counted, estimated, a spreadsheet's opinion about companies too small to call. And here is where that estimate quietly flatters reality. Take a laid-off engineer who, out of necessity, registers an LLC and starts driving for a rideshare app. To the model, that can look like a brand new business, a birth, a positive contribution to the jobs count, when what actually happened is that a good job died and a gig replaced it. Multiply that across a softening economy, and the model keeps voting for good news exactly as the ground shifts underneath it. And edit number 4 is the cleanup crew that comes through after the party's over. Revisions. That impressive first number, the one that led the broadcast, that the president posted about, that moved the market at 8:30 on a Friday morning, is only a preliminary estimate. It gets revised, usually within 2 months, and lately those revisions skew one way, down. Sometimes it's a few thousand jobs, sometimes it is not. Last year, the government's annual benchmark revision erased 911,000 jobs, nearly 1 million positions reported, celebrated, and priced in that simply were not there. The largest downward revision on record. The first print got the parade. The correction got a footnote months later when nobody was looking.
Add the 4 edits up, the dropouts who make it fall, the honest U6 that never gets quoted, the jobs a model invents, and the numbers quietly walked back after the headline has done its work, and you get a statistic that is technically true and structurally optimistic. Every thumb on the scale pushes the same way. So when it tells you unemployment is low, what is it actually telling you about your odds of getting hired?
Here's the thing the rate physically cannot see no matter how carefully you calculate it, whether the job is any good. Run the tape on one person. They lose a 40-hour salaried role, the health insurance, the steady paycheck, the title. That's one job lost. Then, to keep the lights on, they pick up gig work, a ride-share shift, a food delivery shift, a weekend of odd tasks off an app. 1, 2, 3 jobs gained. Net to the statistics, +2. The report had a wonderful month. The human is working more hours for less money with no benefits and no floor underneath them, and to the number, that reads as an improvement. This is why the mood and the metric keep drifting apart. The question the rate answers is there technically a job somewhere? The question you're actually asking is, can I get a job that pays my rent? For decades, those two moved together. Lately, they've split hard. The official rate sits near a cycle low, around 4.2%, while how people feel about finding work has fallen to about 49.5%, the kind of reading you normally only see in a recession.
Part of what's happening underneath is a freeze, not mass layoffs. The former Fed chair called it a low-hire, low-fire economy. Companies aren't cutting deeply, which keeps the rate looking calm, but they're barely hiring either. Almost nothing is moving. If you already have a job, it feels stable. If you don't, the doors just aren't opening. And that freeze lands hardest on the people trying to get in. A new graduate with no work history, a career switcher starting over. The share of first-time job seekers who can't find anything is the highest since 1988. When employers stop hiring, they don't stop needing their current staff. They stop taking chances on the person with no track record yet. For that person, the door isn't merely hard to open, it's shut. So, if the number is tilted this consistently toward good news, it's worth asking a blunt question. Who is that optimism actually for? Because a statistic this reliably rosy isn't an accident. It's convenient. And it's convenient for someone specific. Start with the Federal Reserve. Its legal mandate, written into the law that created it, is maximum employment. So a low unemployment rate is not just data to the Fed, it is permission. Permission to keep interest rates where it wants them. Permission to say the labor market is holding up just fine. In its June statement, the committee put it in exactly these words. Job gains have kept pace with the workforce, and the unemployment rate has changed little. Nothing to see here. Then the obvious one, whoever happens to be in charge. Every administration of every party stands in front of that first Friday jobs number when it's good and takes a bow. It's the most bipartisan prop in American politics. Same podium, same beaming figure, only the flag pin changes. Nobody in power has ever wanted this number to look worse than it has to. And the quietest beneficiary of all, your employer. The labor market is strong, workers are easy to find, is a perfectly fine macro observation, but it's also the exact sentence in the back of your manager's mind in the meeting where your raise is decided. If everyone believes there's a line of people out the door who'd take your job, then you're easy to replace, and your leverage to ask for more quietly evaporates. None of this requires a conspiracy. Nobody has to coordinate anything. It's simpler than that and more durable. Nearly every judgment call baked into the number, which definition to use, which survey to lean on, which way to round a close call, happens to point the same direction, rosy.
and nearly everyone with the power to define it also happens to benefit when it looks good. When every assumption, each one made independently by well-meaning people, leans the same way toward things are fine, at some point the thing stops being a measurement and starts being a message.
So, is unemployment low? Sure, the rate is low. The rate is in fact having a wonderful time. It doesn't see the people who dropped out. It doesn't quote its own honest number. It invents jobs at exactly the wrong moment, and it genuinely thinks your 3-gig shifts are a promotion. You, though, don't live in the rate. You live in the inbox, in the "we've decided to move forward with other candidates," in the 200 applications and the 1 callback. That's the real labor market, the one you actually have to survive. And the rate was never built to measure that. Next time, we're going after the flip side, the one number nobody in power is allowed to make look good, no matter how hard they try. Until then, keep the receipts.